somebody invents the transistor, which replaced the tube. That wasn't the big thing. The big thing was when the integrated circuit started coming out, which it replaced a massive amount of tubes, massive amount of electronics on well, at that time it was still kind of a big circuit board, but it was all, no tubes, no transistors, where the transistors were built like the size of a pinhead. But my dad said like this numerous times. He said technology could have not advanced as fast as it did, both electronic, mechanically, everything, without help. It just doesn't compute. How can you go from like the late 50s to the 60s and then, have major changes? Where we're going to the moon. We're going circulating around the earth. We develop computers, things. It just doesn't make sense unless we had a lot of help.
Well, there's two theories behind that. There's one theory that we reached a kickoff point in our technology, and it's evolving naturally. And if you took the sum total of human knowledge up to 1957, it took all of recorded history to reach that level of sum total of human knowledge. Then within 15 years, we doubled it. And since then, it has been doubling at half that time and then half that time. And it's continuing to the point where Kurzweil is talking about a technological singularity occurring sometime in the very near future, maybe less than a decade, because we're advancing so quickly. Now, that's one theory. The other theory is that someone's been interfering. And if the U.S. has been the one that's been most beneficial with regard to technology from aliens, that would kind of jibe with the idea that we are the ones that the aliens are dealing with, because you were talking about the tubes. Well, Bell Laboratories invented the transistor. Oddly enough, we think of the Japanese because of transistor radios through the 60s and 70s, but
right.
No, it was Bell Labs in America. And then we also invented the microchip. And that's when it really began to take off. And it seems odd that those items of technology came from American labs, and they exploded us technologically and economically as a result. Yes, other countries were real quick to pick up on it, but the technology came from here. Why? Why the United States? Why not Russia? Why not England? Why not France? Why not Canada? But it didn't. It came from here.
Makes you wonder. It really does. Mary Joyce out in North Carolina, I think it's called Cashiers, whatever.com. She runs a UFO Bigfoot reporting center. She's been on the show several times, and she claims that she had a government official, was high up in the government, had every bit of the top secret clearance you could have, the highest level, told her that we are getting a lot of our technology from aliens.
Oh, I think we are. And by the way, I think Bigfoot really exists. I have it in the QT from a friend who I absolutely trust that they are real. And
They are.
Yes, that the Bigfoot is real. His family has interacted with them since the late 1700s. He is mounting an expedition into the Arctic area, spending several $1 million and hiring several researchers to do it, because he is so convinced that they are real, and his family, he claims, has even fed them. Can't tell you who he is, but he's pretty darn powerful guy, and he certainly knows his stuff, and I'm absolutely convinced he's telling me the truth. And I won't say where he lives or what he does, but he's impressive, very impressive. And he thinks they're real.
No, there is no doubt.
What relationship is with aliens, I'm not sure.
I can honestly tell you, they are real. And the reason why I say that, it tells me you don't listen to our show, is back in the early 2000s, me and my friend, he was a medical doctor. He just got done doing his internship. And he was opening a practice in Puyallup, Washington. At that time, his father was a Superior Court judge in Pierce County. His brother was a high-profile criminal attorney in Pierce County. Okay, so I'm giving a lot of information there. We decide we're going to go up to the Canadian Rockies and take pictures of ghost towns and old cemeteries. Because we were, I took a 10-year break from radio and managed a chain of professional camera stores. And that's how I met my friend. we went into an old Japanese internment camp, what was left of it, up in the Canadian Rockies. We had to drive down, up to middle of nowhere. And then we had to take what was left of a side road. And we went in, and we had to hike in about 2 miles. I can honestly tell you, Bigfoot are real. As simple as that. I'm willing to take a polygraph test. I'm willing to sodium pentothal, whatever. I know what I've seen. I know what my friends seen. And I can tell you, Bigfoot are real. You don't find them if you're out looking for them. We weren't looking for one. That's all I'm going to say.
And I absolutely believe you. And I believe my friend as well, because I don't think he's lying. I really don't. I don't even need to subject him to a polygraph test. You may be, but
I'm game for it.
And no, I think they're real. How they relate to the aliens, I don't know. There was an X-Files show on the Brown Mountain Lights here in North Carolina, and it involved Bigfoot and aliens. It was, of course, just science fiction and a speculation about it all. But I thought it interesting that they combined the two and put them together. And so who are these Bigfoot? What are they? Are they a race of humans that were developed by the aliens and have been kept and are in hiding? I mean, we have reports of the Yeti, the abominable snowman in the Himalayas. We have reports of Sasquatch in the Pacific Northwest. We have Bigfoot in other areas. It goes by all sorts of different names, but it seems this creature is worldwide, but always seems to be very, very hidden.
Well, you know what? I can say this. We were out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, there was that's why they built the World War II, the internment camp out where they did in the Canadian Rockies, is because it was in the middle of nowhere. So if somebody got out, where are they going to go?
I was not aware there were Japanese internment camps in the Canadian Rockies.
Oh, yeah, there was.
For prisoners of war?
Prisoners of war during World War II, and that's why they put it up in the Canadian Rockies, out in the middle of nowhere.
That would do it.
Yeah, and I tell you what, they're not friendly. They don't give off orbs, at least what me and my friend ran into. And I tell you, I have never gone into the forest after that. And now I grew up with a family, my dad, my mom, my brother. We went camping all through, being a juvenile to adult. When I had my 8 kids, we used to go camping all the time.
Me too.
And when I had that encounter, I have not gone into the woods. You couldn't get me into the woods because it scared me. Now, I served in the military. I've been through numerous firefights in my life when I was young. I tell you, I was so scared, I peed myself when I was running. That's how scared I was. And it wasn't a friendly orb situation. And it's not like what most people say Bigfoot is like. They're not what people think they are. They're not a friendly creature. My family has married into 2 different Indian tribes up here in the Northwest. And I got to know back a few years ago the Indian, medicine woman, because they don't have a medicine man. They had the medicine woman. And she told me stories going back around the 1860s, 1870s, and beyond of Bigfoot and what they did. And they have never been friendly towards humans. Now, you might run across some that could possibly be because they may be adapted, but I think you're not going to find them if you're out looking for them making noises like some of these TV shows did. That's not going to happen.
Right. I was thinking that way when you were talking about this.
We ran into what we ran into only purely by accident. Out in the middle of nowhere. And I tell you what, my friend says, hey, look, because what was left of this internment camp, there was not much left. There was some machinery left. They built it on the side of a mountain. Up in that area, there was a lot of silver mines. And there was a silver mine there in that prison camp. And there's a creek that went in between. And there was some old machinery. And my friend first said, hey, look at that huge bear. And, he had his wide angle taking pictures. I had a telephoto. And I picked up my camera, Rob, and I looked at that bear. And at about the same time I looked at the bear, it saw me. Maybe from the reflection of the lens. I have no idea. But it screamed. And it echoed because it was down, by the base of that mountain down there. And then it decided to come after us. And I tell you what, that's the scariest thing I've ever been involved in my entire life.
Well, why were you so scared of the Bigfoot thing? What did they do to scare you?
Well, the way it screamed, and then it charged us. Now, it had to go across the creek. Now, I will say this. When it started coming, we took off running. Because the scream alone was scary, okay? Now, we're running. We had to run about 2 miles back to the car. Now, a couple times I did turn around to see if it was still behind us, which it was. Now, this is where some people agree with me. Some people just say, oh, that's bull, you know what. I noticed it was running between 2 legs and 4 legs. Or, all fours. Back and forth.
So it's capable of being a quadruped as well as a biped.
Yeah, and I think that's how it got its speed. Now, when we got back to the car, my friend wasn't quite at the car. I got to the car. I opened up the door. I'm getting in the car. I'm putting the key in. And I'm starting it. And I'm dropping it in gear. And about the time I'm dropping it in gear, my friend grabs the car door, opens it. I'm dragging him, which I could have killed him. Now, I will say this, before that, it or its mate was like 25 feet away from us in the tree line, bending a tree, like a 5-inch tree over like nothing. And it screamed. I can still smell and taste the odor. It was that strong. It was so pungent, it burnt my throat. Now, this is the early part of June, and it was still snow up there off the side of the roads and areas. It was cold, but the smell was so pungent, it actually burnt my throat, if you could just imagine it. Now, you can believe this or not.
The odor.
The odor was that strong. Now,
can you describe the odor? How would you describe it? Was it like burning rubber?
It was like a musty urine, just a disgusting smell that it actually was, like I said, so strong that when you breathed, it burnt your lungs. That's how bad it was. Now, this is the honest for God truth. It picked up a rock, threw a rock, and it was a good size rock. It hit the car, put a big dent in the fender by the door, and part of the door was creased in from that rock. Now, the bad part is my wife just bought that car 2 weeks before we went on the trip. She was nice enough because she thought my Jeep, which was only a couple years old, but it had 100 and some thousand miles. She says, hey, take the new car. I come back, and the first thing she goes, what happened to my car? I tell her the truth. So that's why, till I got on the show and I started talking to some other people about Bigfoot, it really upsets me because I know when somebody's lying. Okay, or doesn't know what they're talking about. So I then voice my own opinion. If that Bigfoot was so friendly, why would it throw a rock into the car? Okay, it was aggressive. I really strongly feel, Rob, if we didn't take off running, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. Because whatever we did, we invaded its territory. It didn't want us there.
For some reason. There are areas called vile vortices on the Earth. There's supposedly 12 of them, and these are areas that don't seem to want people in them. And it's everything from the Bermuda Triangle to the Devil's or Dragon's Triangle in Southeast Asia. There's quite a few of them, actually, and there's also one in North Africa, around near Algeria, and there's the Mexico Zone of Silence, which is very strange indeed. So let me ask you a question.
Well, guess what? We're going to have to hold because we're going on break with the radio stations, and then James is going to come back. So we got about 8 minutes to kill. So if you want to get a cup of Java, whatever you have to do, we'll be back talking to Rob, and we'll talk a little bit more about Bigfoot. Then we're going to talk more about aliens and deadly UFOs here on Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark.
We are not alone in this universe. It's a thought that rings true. Ancient cave dwellers drew spacecraft on the walls. It's a recurring theme. I've seen the same thing while walking late at night.